Hey, welcome back to Always Learning. And what are we doing today? Well, today we are doing the deck project. So we got the deck project. I replaced these boards and I did everything I could, but they're still starting to rot here. I kind of tried to patch them there. So I've got some new 2x6s. They are expensive. They are about $100 a piece of Redwood 2x6x16. So I'm just going to take out the old ones and replace them with the new ones, and I'll show you how I'm going to do it. Now I am going to try to flip these boards over and see if just this side is rotted and see if I can't salvage the other side. Maybe patch this side with something that isn't maybe aesthetically pleasing but is not going to rot further, and then flip that board over and try to go exactly through the same screw holes. So we'll see if we can't do that. I'm also going to tinker with different kinds of exterior glue and redwood sawdust and see if I can't make something that at least looks like a knot or is passable and looks good that I can still stain. So I'm gonna experiment with that as well. But we're just basically replacing this section here with about 3 boards, but I'm gonna show you how to do it. All right, I can't get these screws out. Tried drilling them with a regular bit. I'm gonna take one of these. I'm going to move this over so the screw is actually going to be between there and just come right over the top. Hopefully that'll allow me to cut enough of this wood out that I don't have to scar up these on the side of them. So I'm just going to come right beside it. See here, I am down now. That screw's free to come out. You can see here, here's the screw, and then here's where the drill bit went through, and then here's what it cut out. But it just went right outside that screw, took it out. All right, so it's hard to see, but I went underneath it, the deck, and I used a crowbar, and then I used a sawzall to saw through any of the screws that were sticking up. Okay, so I simply went under the deck and I used this crowbar and this little crowbar tool to just kind of raise the deck as I went, to simply pull it up. And then as I got it lifted, I would come into these, where these trusses were, and I would just come with the sawzall and cut off those screws. Kind of like you see here, you got a screw here. I just stick this between this board where this screw is, stick it between there and just saw them off. And then this came free. And sometimes the screw head comes off and you'll get it here, but I'll come back and clean it up with the sawzall, or you can take a hacksaw and saw them off. And that's it. Then I'll measure and make sure these are all off. Come back, cut it, and re-screw it, and we'll have one down. All right, I'm gonna try to show you what I'm doing down here. I'm simply getting some leverage underneath this. See if I can't come to the other side and show you. I'm just trying to get enough leverage on this joist up so that I can get and come in here with my sawzall and just cut it. And just keep doing it. Now that I've gotten these screws cut, you just use this gap now as your leverage to go to the next one. And you just keep going. Leverage on the other one. You can see there's a gap now. That gap's just barely long enough to slide the saw blade to cut it. So here we go. We got most of the boards removed, at least the two 16-footers running across, and then we'll come back in and splice the other ones. Once you get your boards in place, you're going to want to screw them down. I'm using 3-inch number 9 screws with the star drive. Star drive's nice because you'll strip off that head before you strip off your drill bit, drilling them in, and so it'll take some of the frustration out. But you're simply going to do it on the joist. I know I say truss all the time, but I really mean joist, so just substitute that word in if you ever hear it in the video. And you're just going to keep going back and forth until you get it. You may need to use a pry bar to kind of get that gap right in there and kind of to get the board exactly where it needs to be. That's kind of what I'm doing here. I'm just lightly putting pressure on to screw it in, and once it's in place, it should hold it. Okay, so I'm going to patch this piece right here, and it's 67. So what I want to make sure I do is I've got to make sure that I get close enough where my overhang, when I cut it, my nail holes are going to be like right here. So I want to cut it almost right at the edge of where the nail holes are on the old board, and then run them off. If I miss on the back side, it's not as important, but right here I want to make sure I can go in those nail holes, screw holes, and then I'll put glue in them, exterior glue, and then I'll screw them back in. So it should hide the nail holes, the screw holes, and if I can't, I'll mix up some exterior glue and a whole bunch of Redwood sawdust and plug in those holes, so when I stain it, it'll kind of hide them. It'll just look like a little knot in there, but that's what I'm gonna try to do, save some money. Redwood right now for a 6 by 2 by 16 is $104, so kind of pricey. So if I can reuse some of this scrap wood that just has rod on the end, save a little money. Probably have to replace it in a couple years anyway. All right, so I cut it right here so that this last 1/2 inch would be hanging over the truss, and I could get those screws. I'm gonna put exterior glue in there, kind of solidify that rod a little bit, and then I'm gonna put the screws in. Hopefully they'll line up with the rest of the trusses. Okay, so I patched this guy. This is the 16-footer, and then this one right here is the 16-footer coming the other way. So got the two 16-footers running in tandem, cross pattern, and then just like on the other end, came in, cut this one from one of my reused pieces and patched it in. I'm going to stain it all so you won't see it. And then today I'm going to come in, take out this 16-footer raw along here at the end where I've got a bunch of rot. So take out that one, take out the little 6-footer, splice in again. I'm going to try to keep this one here, so I'm basically like starting over, so it's kind of tough. I don't have access. I'm going to have to cut and pry and use my sawzall to cut the screws from underneath. If you're not going to salvage the boards like me, you can just come in with the sawzall and cut across there, as long as you don't cut through the joist, and you can cut out a piece to help you get some leverage on it. But I'm cutting off the end to help me get some leverage. Then I'm still going to come underneath and cut the screws off, because I'm going to try to salvage most of that board. So if you got a chop saw, it'll make this job go a lot faster. If you got a circular saw, you can do it. I didn't have a lot of boards, and I usually put it on a table, but I only had to cut a couple, so I didn't do it. And here's a pro tip: if you have the other board not leaning against your dust bag, it goes a lot easier. All right, there you go. There's the finished product. Still got a stain and trim. There's the two pieces that I spliced in with the 16 footers, and then I did it on the other end. But I think it turned out pretty well. Like, they blend in pretty well, but I'll power wash it and then stain it in the next video, and they should blend right in. I mean, the new ones, they're still going to look a little bit different, but it'll be better than you think. And then over time, once the sun kind of fades them out a little, they'll blend in as well. But thanks for watching.